Hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Created to Follow podcast, episode 1. Woo! I am so excited. I have been dreaming and planning this podcast for about 2 years now, and I'm so excited to share with you what God has been teaching me over the past few years, basically, of learning how to follow Jesus. And so I want to tell you, starting out, I want to tell you why I created this podcast and my story that led me to this point in my life, basically. So my name is Benton. First of all, hi. My name is Benton. I am a worship leader in my home church in Albion, Pennsylvania, and I was raised in a Christian home. Two people who were heavily involved in ministry my entire life, basically. So I basically was raised in leadership of the church, basically. Like my parents did youth ministry, my parents did children's ministry, helping out. So like I was raised that we follow Jesus. Like that was my life. That was my childhood. And I was called into ministry when I was 15 years old at a youth camp in Texas. I went to the altar whenever they offered a prayer time for those that felt called into ministry. So I went up and basically I didn't know what I was called into, but I knew I was called into ministry at some point. And God just kind of spoke to my heart and said, "You're going to be a worship leader." And I was like, "Okay, I don't even know how to play an instrument yet, God. How do I do this?" I didn't even sing at that point. So I went to my youth pastor, who was also the worship leader at the time, and basically told him, "Hey, this is what God told me, and could you help me?" So I joined the youth worship team, started learning how to sing, started learning how to harmonize, and then when I was 18, I started learning how to play guitar. By the way, I grew up in a musical family too. My dad and my mom were both songwriters, and my dad played guitar, drums, and keyboard. So I kind of grew up in music. So it's only natural that this would happen in my life too. Crazy thing. Again, I was 18, I started playing guitar. And then when I was 19, I started leading worship. My parents split up when I was turning 19, and I moved to Kentucky. And I started leading worship at a church in Kentucky that I joined whenever I moved to Kentucky. So that was kind of like what started my journey into ministry, was whenever I became a worship leader at the churches that I played music at. And I was 21, I decided to go to college and became the worship leader at a campus ministry called Chi Alpha that I actually would eventually work at. After college, I got my credentials with the Assemblies of God and became a youth pastor. Then about 8 months went by, and I was actually had to let go of that job. It wasn't a healthy situation. I'm not going to go into why, but needless to say, I had to resign from that position, and God transitioned me into working in missions full time. I became a Chi Alpha missionary, and I moved to Edinburgh, Pennsylvania, where I did an internship at the Chi Alpha at Edinburgh University. Woohoo! And in this experience, God really put in my heart that I was supposed to be ministering to college students. So I worked for Chi Alpha about 3 years, and then in 2018, about 7 years ago, I was actually asked to step down from Chi Alpha and reevaluate my life, and it was a very hard season of my life. I was not in a good place at that point in time in my life. And so I basically, having to step down in that ministry role kind of wrecked my entire plan for my life, if you will. I believed firmly that I was supposed to plant a Chi Alpha in Louisville, Kentucky at that point in time. But yet, whenever I was asked to step down, it completely destroyed my entire dream and my entire plan for my life. And I had to reevaluate everything. Fortunately, I had a pastor friend who offered me a position at his church as a young adults pastor, a volunteer young adults pastor. So I served there 3 years, but I did not do very well. I'll just be honest with you guys. I was so destroyed by my own dream falling apart, basically, that I basically wandered for 3 years. Like, God, what am I supposed to do now with my life? I do feel called to Louisville, but, I didn't necessarily this is not the direction that I wanted for my life to be a young adults pastor. Yeah, I love my young adults, my group, but like this is not what you've called. I feel like you called me to do. So like, what now? What am I supposed to do now? So I kind of like went through the motions, made some decisions that were pretty rash. I didn't actually like spend time actually praying before I said yes to some commitments to do things in ministry that like I just like I just said yes because I wanted to do ministry so badly and to have this answer to my question of what was I supposed to do that like I just said yes to a lot of things, and then I was like, ugh, God's actually not telling me to do this, so I had to apologize several times. And so like 3 years went by, and I was just an emotional wreck, just to be honest with you guys, and like just relationally, mentally, spiritually, and even physically, just unhealthy, financially unhealthy. And it got to the point where I just had to say, God, I need you to do something. And that was about like September, October of 2020 during COVID. Like this was during COVID. So like you can imagine having to be stuck in my house and I actually worked full time at a Kroger, but like having to work full time, and then coming home to do nothing but sit in my room, and not being able to be with the young adults group, not being able to go to church, so like it's just things after things after things, and it just happened and crashing my life and it just falling apart around me, and I got to the point where I just in about September, like I said, like I just got on my knees and said, God, I need you to do something. And he spoke to me in that moment and said, if you would release your identity as a pastor and learn to be my disciple and follow me instead of following your own dreams and your own plans, then I'll lead you to where I want you to be. And so I said, okay, God, and I just felt this rejuvenation. Like finally I had a clear direction. Yes, I had to give up a lot of things. My identity, like I said, as a pastor, I spent 10 years, at least 12 years at that point in time, just trying to, do ministry as my identity. And I had to give that up. And yet it was the best decision of my life because I went on this journey and here I am about 4 years later, and I feel the most healthy that I've ever felt in my life because God has been teaching me what it truly means to follow Him, to follow Jesus. And so, about a couple of years ago, I moved back to Edinburgh from Louisville because I had a discussion with my best friend. He said, why don't you just move back up here, restart your life? And I said, okay. I felt like God was in that. So I packed my stuff up in 2021 and moved back. And I met the woman of my dreams and got married. And here I am 3 years later after moving from Louisville, the most healthy that I've been in a while. I'm still learning. I'm still not perfect. But, God has taught me a lot of things in the past 7 years, especially in the past 4 years, once I just let go of my own desires and started learning how to follow Him the way He designed me to. And, so about 3 years ago, but right before I moved back to Edinburgh, God said, I want you to help people in the same situation that you were in to learn how to thrive in every area of life, spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally, financially, relationally, etc. And, so God kind of gave me a purpose in that season of relearning how to follow Him. And he gave me a goal to achieve something. So not only did I just quit everything, but He reformed the sense of purpose and identity. And, here I am 4 years after that, and God's put a ministry in my heart to start that is actually the foundation of this podcast. And so a couple of years ago, God put the word thrive in my heart as a ministry to help others thrive in every area of life. So obviously thrive is a kind of a cliche word. Everybody uses it. So I prayed about it, and God gave me the name We Thrive Ministries as a tool and a launching pad to help people to thrive in every area of life. And it's been under a formulation, so I haven't started it quote unquote officially yet, but God has given me kind of a direction now, a slow process. It is a slow process of how am I going to do this? How am I going to get to this point of starting this We Thrive Ministries? And the first step was this podcast, which is really cool. So about 2 years ago, I felt that God had put this idea of a podcast in my heart to use my creative abilities to design social media posts and to design like graphics and stuff like that would ultimately lead to a podcast and a YouTube channel starting. And here we are a couple of years later, 2 years later, and I'm excited to say this is the first, this is the beginning of a new season of, that has been 4 years long of waiting and preparing for what God wanted to release in me and teach me, and so I can help you guys. So this is the first thing. This is the next step, and I'm excited that you're on this journey with me. So why did I choose the name Created to Follow? So this is something that I've been praying about, and I've been, going through a couple of years, this has, been a 2-year planning process. But ultimately, God spoke to me a few weeks ago and said that, we were designed and created to follow something or someone. And who we choose to follow will determine the course of life that we have and reflect the kind of people that we are. And actually, who we follow is who is in control of our lives. So we have to examine our life and see who or what we are actually following to see if it's the best person to lead our lives and to control our lives. Ultimately, God did design us to follow something or someone. He ultimately designed us to follow Him. But He gave us a choice, to follow Him or to follow ourselves. And most of us, all of us, since the dawn of time, have chosen at some points in our lives to follow ourselves. We follow our own desires, and we follow our own emotions. And yes, we can get back on a good path, but ultimately, we're not capable of perfectly following a perfect path because of reasons that I'm not going to spend this podcast, but I will explain it later on a different podcast. But ultimately, we know that we have a choice, and most of us are going to choose other things besides God. And we have to ask ourselves and take into account, is what I'm following actually leading me down a path that is going to ultimately lead to my ultimate perfection? Is it going to lead to a better result? If it's not, we have to stop. We have to reevaluate our life and say, who or what could I follow that might lead me down a different path? And in determining who or what we're following right now and in the future, we have to ask ourselves a few questions. We have to see, is the thing that I'm going to follow, is the person that I'm going to follow going to lead me to the best end result, the ultimate result, the ultimate transformation, the ultimate perfection, the ultimate growth? Is the thing that I'm going to follow going to lead me to that? And what is that? I don't know. Most of us probably don't know. We're so limited in our understanding that we can't possibly know. So trying to figure it out without seeking the best is going to always cause us to fall apart and always ultimately going to lead to our own destruction. So we also have to ask ourselves, is who or what I'm following morally good? Is it morally perfect? So if we have a role model in our lives, for instance, that we choose to follow, it could be a grandpa, it could be a dad that we say, I want to be like that person. But ultimately, are they qualified to be our role model? A perfect role model? Yeah, they could be a good role model, but are they the perfect, best role model that we could possibly follow? Or are they going to make mistakes? And 100% of the time, they will fail you at some point. So does that mean you can't follow them? I mean, you can if you want to, but is there a better person out there that you can put your trust in and follow and let them have control over your life? Or if you look at religious beliefs, there's several, the five biggest religions in the world are Hinduism, Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and Buddhism. So you have to examine, are those things that I'm following, if you're inclined to a specific religion, is what I'm following, is those doctrines, those belief systems that I'm following actually true? Are they morally good? Are they consistent? Because if there's contradictions in the doctrine, then it's probably not complete truth. It's probably something that either the people that were writing it didn't understand completely, or they were lying, or they were deceived themselves. So we have to ask ourselves when we evaluate the things that we're following, is it true? Is it consistent within itself? Are the religions that are out there consistent within themselves? Are they morally good? Are they going to lead me to the best results? Or are they a lie? And we have to ask ourselves this question. We could be following the principles of society, the moral principles of society that tell us you have to be this way in order to be a good person. You have to do this in order to achieve this success. You have to do this and this and this. So, like, for instance, in our society today, in the Western culture, we have this saying, do what makes you happy. Follow your heart. What does your heart say? Is that consistent? No. I hate to tell you this, but like 100% of us will, if we follow our hearts, we're going to go in circles. So that's just not good advice. That's not a good thing to follow. That's not a good truth to follow. It's not even true. Your heart is going to lead you astray. I am sorry. Do whatever makes you feel happy. I'm sorry, your feelings change every day. So if you follow your feelings, I'm sorry, you're going to be like this leaf in the wind. And you're going to constantly feel like pressure to be better. You're going to constantly feel like you're never going to go anywhere. You're going to constantly feel let down by the world. So if we examine our hearts and see, maybe I am being led astray by these principles that are being taught in our society, and they're actually not leading me to wholeness, and they're not leading me to peace. They're not leading me to an end goal that is the best for me. So then we have to ask ourselves, if these things aren't leading me to where I truly 100% need to be, the best results, because they're not morally good, they're not consistent, they're not truthful, they're not actually helping me long term. Yeah, they might be helping me in the moment, but they're not helping me long term. That what is out there that is perfect? What is out there that's available for me that I can put my trust in, that I can truly follow, that will lead me to the best results, the ultimate hope, the ultimate future, to be whole and to have perfection in every area of life, to thrive in every area of life? What is there someone or something out there that is morally good, that is truthful, that has my best intentions at heart, that I can put my trust in, and that I can follow? Because everything else has led me down paths that I didn't want to go, or isn't perfect. So who is out there that is this perfect example, perfect representation of who I should be? And it will help me get to the point that I can be a better person, to be the person that I feel like that I was created to be healthy, to be whole, to have joy, to have peace, to have patience, to be good, to be faithful. Because everything that I've tried has failed. Is there someone out there? And the answer is yes. And who is that person? Well, we have to look back to the beginning of time to find this person. There is a being out there that created us, that formed us. If we look at our skin, if we look at the hands that we have, the hair on our heads, the eyes, every part of our design was created to achieve something, to have a purpose, that there's a greater plan, that we're not just here by accident. We're not just here for no reason, but we're here for a purpose, and a greater purpose than us, and that person is God. And he wants to show himself to us. He wants to show himself that he loves us and that he has a plan for our lives. He's not just this far off being that left us after he created us. You know, I picture it this way. If we say that God isn't perfectly good, if we say that God just kind of stands back and does nothing, is that a God worth following? Is that a God worth believing him? No, it's not. But if we can reframe our ways of thinking about our Creator and see him as somebody that is worth trusting, if we don't understand it yet, even if we haven't seen it yet, we have to have hope that he is a person that is worth trusting. Otherwise, we're going to be miserable. We have to believe that he has a plan for us that is achievable. Otherwise, we're going to be miserable and keep on going through the motions and keep on going in circles. We have to believe that he is a God that is with us, that he can help us along the way, that is the ultimate role model. Otherwise, we're going to be miserable and going around in circles. So who is this God? Is he out there? Who is this person that we can put our trust in? I have an answer for you, and his name is Jesus. You might think, oh, isn't Jesus just this good person that lived 2,000 years ago? Didn't he, wasn't he a good teacher? And I'm going to answer that question in the next podcast. But today, I want to leave you with this. If you're looking for answers, if you don't have hope in whom you're currently following, if the person that you're following, if the idea that you're following, if the teachings that you're following aren't actually leading you to a life of wholeness, to lead you to a better future and a better hope, it's time to stop. It's time to do your research. It's time to seek the answers. Stop wasting your time going around in circles. Sit yourself down and ask in prayer to the source of life himself, God. God, show yourself to me. God, I choose to believe in you, even if I can't see you yet. God, I don't understand you, but I want to. So would you show yourself to me? And I promise you, he will answer. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. This has been my testimony of learning who God is and learning how he's the best thing for me. And I hope that you will join me on this journey. As I continue this podcast series, I'm going to teach you everything that I've learned over the past few years. And I'm going to continue to grow myself because this is just still a journey for me. I'm not perfect. So we're going to learn together. I want to challenge you to join this journey with me. And let's build this community around this idea of doing life together, of following God together. So I hope you subscribe, I hope you like, I hope you comment, and share this video. Have a great day. God bless.